known Dave for a while. Oh yeah, you got it recording? Good, good. Dave Soldano is a licensed drone pilot, and that's part 107B, and part owner instructor of American Phototrex, where he has co-led over 60 workshops throughout the Southwest United States. He conducts drone photography workshops where he teaches beginner and advanced drone photography techniques. Dave has a PPA Master of Photography degree and is a CPP, that's Certified Professional Photographer. He is a two-time Diamond Photographer of the Year, which is really cool, Dave, and has twice been selected of Team USA in the World Photographic Cup. Also super cool, Dave. Last year, one of his drone images placed fourth in the World Cup landscape category and helped Team USA win the cup. Yes.
Yay. Go Team
Yay.
USA.
And so everybody, may I introduce David Soldano?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this. Thank you, Ellen. And I love to talk photography. I love to talk drones. So this is a great opportunity for me. So I really appreciate it. And I'm going to share my screen, or I'm going to try to share my screen. I'm going to try and share the correct one. Let me see. They pop up. There we go. There's two. And then we do that. There we go. And that's the wrong one, right?
I don't see anything yet.
Yeah. Hold on. Tim. We go to the Zoom meeting. Do that again. Share. And there's the right one. Okay. So can you see that one?
Nope, still nothing.
Oh, that looks like, oh, I have to hit the share button. There we go.
Now it looks promising. There we go.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. So I put this together really as a very, very practical presentation about drones. You know, nothing where I'm just showing my images and talking about the images. This is kind of if you're considering a drone, here's the stuff the questions you have, the stuff you're probably concerned about, maybe the things you're a little bit scared about. That's the way I was about it. I was a little bit scared to get a drone, and some ideas about how to get started with it. So I like to think of this as a very practical presentation. So again, we'll run through it. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, and maybe at the end we'll try and address them, or if something comes up that's really important, then just Helen, if you could ask it for me, and we'll get started. And this presentation is coming to you from these exotic luxury accommodations. That's me right there. I'm in that tiny little trailer driving around in Ridgeway, Colorado right now. And this tiny little trailer, I think, is like the perfect one-man trailer, and I just take it everywhere, and it's so easy to drop and use, and it's so fun. And as you can see, I got my little Starlink right there, and I'm coming to you live via Starlink right now. So this is the stuff I'm going to talk about. Should I get a drone? So that, that should be, if the answer is no, then we're pretty much done right there, right? But probably won't be no. What are the rules? I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. Getting started. How do I keep my drone safe? For sure. This is something that really concerned me when I first considered buying a drone. And then how to get started capturing images. Now, this is only going to be about photography. I'm not going to talk about video. Honestly, I'm not too good at video yet. I'm still working on it. But this is only going to be about landscape photography with the drone. And I'm doing a subsection about panoramas because they're their own part of this. And I want to show you some things about panoramas that are really practical things you might want to know capturing with the drone. Some post-processing, just some discussion about noise reduction, and accessories, which is always fun talking stuff. So Here, let's reveal the answer. Should I get a drone? Yes. You absolutely should get a drone. If you're a landscape photographer, I absolutely think you need to get a drone because they show you what you've been always looking for when it comes to landscape photography. And that's, the big picture, where the light is coming from, where it's landing on, what it's illuminating. It just like all photography, it's all about light. And it gives you some unique perspectives that you're just not going to get anywhere else other than flying up in the sky. I like to joke that it's my 300-foot tripod, and a lot of times you treat it just like that. But if you're going to get a drone, what are the rules? And this can slow some people down. Like, oh, I don't know. There's so many rules about getting a drone. I want to do it right. It's a lot to learn. Actually, it's a lot easier than you might think now. And it used to be more complicated, but it's actually got a lot easier. The FAA now has its own website specifically for drones, and it's called the Drone Zone, and that's the address to it. And if you go there, it really walks down the basic rules. Um, and if you're thinking about flying a drone and you want to do it right, then there are two different pilot certifications. And yep, according to the FAA, if you fly a drone, you're a pilot. And they've recently come out with this recreational use certification versus the commercial use. Now, I am a 107B licensed drone pilot. I went through the training and took the test and that type of stuff. And that's necessary if you're going to do anything commercial with your drone. But if you just want to have fun with your drone and you just want to, work through it, they now have this little recreational use certification that's very easy to get, tells you the basics of what you need, and it's very easy to do. So if you want to fly purely for recreational use, then this trust test is available, and you can get it right there through the drone zone. Now, I will say that they have a pretty narrow definition of recreational use. It's basically, you know, only things if you're just out flying your drone, taking the pictures for yourself, maybe sharing it with friends and family and this type of stuff, and that's it. But I mean, anything where you're using it for promotional purposes, like to promote your own photography website, or if you're even using it for to support a nonprofit or something like that. They say none of that is recreational use. But to get started, I think taking this little quick trust test, which is a little 20-minute thing, you go on, you take it, and that's about it. And you get a little certification, and that's all you have to do. To get started, I think it's the way to go. But if you want to do commercial, then that's where you take you sell your image, promoting your website, working for charities, and just about everything else. Then you need the remote pilot certification, or what's called the 107. And I liken that, for those of you who have gone through CPP, it's very similar to CPP. You've got a study course that you go through, you learn a bunch of stuff that I didn't know, and then you take a proctored test, a 100-question proctored test, and they take it very seriously. You got to do it. But it's nothing anyone can't do. And I do liken it to the CPP as far as its intensity and what you need to know. But if I would say if you do your recreational trust and you go out and start flying your drone, you enjoy it, and you start thinking about selling your drone images, and you start thinking about, maybe teaching others or doing other things with the drone. There's a lot of ways to make money with the drone. Then I'd say go through one of these courses, and you take a test, you take a class. There's a whole bunch of classes out there that teach you this. Basically, they teach you this test, and then you take the test and you pass it. You get recertified every 2 years. That used to mean that you had to take another test every 2 years. But now really you just log on to the website, you acknowledge that, certain things that you're still following the rules, and that's all you have to do to stay certified. So once you are certified as a drone pilot, then there's the process of registering your drone, which is don't let that slow you down because it's incredibly easy. It takes about 5 minutes. And basically, if your drone weighs more than 250 grams, um, you don't have to register it. But if you're a 107B pilot and your drone weighs less than 250 grams, you still have to register it. I don't know if you knew that, but that's true. I'm going to show you a drone that weighs under 250 grams. That's great to get started with. You don't necessarily have to register it, but its registering is so easy. It takes about 5 minutes. You get a number, just like a tail number on a plane. You put it on your drone and you're registered, and you're playing by the rules. Um, and it's really simple. Like I say, and I think it costs $5 per. So it's not a reason. The rules aren't that hard, especially with this new little 20-minute trust quest test. So if the rules were something that might be holding you back, they're pretty simple. And all the websites you need right there are right here in this presentation. It's really simple. Basically, it's just take the trust test, register your drone, you're ready to go. But then the question is, well, where do I fly? Where can I fly this thing and where can't I? And luckily, the FAA has a database called Before You Fly, and there are certain little apps that you can use on your phone that can show you exactly where you fly, and they're just about as easy as it seems. You simply open the app, uh, navigate. Usually, if it's where you are and you have internet, you can just tap it to right there. Or before you go somewhere, you can just zoom in and tap. And right there, it's going to tell you, yes, you can fly there, or no, you can't. And that's going to be as far as the airspace. They're going to tell you, yep, that's you can fly in this airspace. There's no problem there. I think right there, that's over by Ridgeway where I'm zoomed in right there. It says, yep, I'm green. I can fly there. And that is the airspace where you can fly. But there are some places out there that have restrictions against operating a drone. And a good example of that is like Colorado State Parks. So in Colorado State Parks, they don't own the airspace over the state park, so that could turn up on your little app as green, but they have prohibitations against operating a drone in the state park that you can get a fine or even get your equipment taken from you. And that's the same in national parks too. So, the airspace you could see green, but when you go into these parks or places, if you see a big sign that says we've got a rule against operating a drone here, then you can't be standing there operating your drone. And so that's an important distinction. I hope everybody understands it, the difference between the airspace and standing somewhere and flying it. But good rule of thumb there is state parks, no. National parks, no. Wilderness areas, no. Wildlife areas, no. These are places where you can't operate the drone. And they'll usually have big signs telling you can't operate the drone. And for the rest of it, you're looking for, can I operate in this airspace? And it's pretty simple once you download the app. And I'll go back and this US Sidekick, that's the one I use. There's like 5 apps that work, and that right there is the website to go see what apps there are that work like this. I use the USA Sidekick. It's pretty easy. And also too, sometimes there could be limited exceptions for like flying in Denver sometimes. It could say, hey, you can fly here, but you have to have permission. And you can actually apply right there in the app and to get permission to fly. And it'll give you like a 20-minute window or sometimes, an hour and that type of thing. And you can actually apply for your little permission to fly in that airspace. And usually what that is just you're letting local airspace controllers know that you're in that area flying and flying at a certain height, and just kind of letting them know you're there. So that's why you register.
Hey Dave, I've got a question from
Okay.
Mike Rhino. He wants
Okay.
to know the difference between FAA 107 Part A and FAA 107 Part B, and if there is an advantage to doing Part B.
I don't know. I'm Part B because that's just the class I took and the test I took. 107 Part B, which was the commercial drone pilot's license. I don't know what A is. Honestly, that was just what I went through. Now like I say, they have this new recreational one called Trust, and that's just for recreational use. But the answer is I don't know Part A. I really don't. I suspect it's more pilot oriented, but I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that one.
And then I've got one coming in from Penny who says, do you get into international regulations?
Yeah, sure did. I went to Europe, and Europe has their own rules, although nobody over there follows them. And if you go to Luxembourg's website, I don't have any of this on my presentation here, but Luxembourg will actually give you the course and let you take the test and get your certification for free. All the other countries in the EU will will charge you, but Luxembourg for some reason is free and it's in English. So you can go to Luxembourg's website, you take the course, and it's good to take the course because all it really does is walk you through the general rules of where and how you can use your drone. And they've got some different rules than us. For example, if you're flying your drone and you can see a person's face and he can be recognized on it, if you take a picture of him, you actually have to have his permission to do that if he can be recognized. If he's turned around and can't be recognized, you don't. They have rules about flying over people's property and all kinds of different things that you should know if you're going to be flying around the EU. But then when you get to the EU, it's the wild, wild west. People are flying all over the place. So it's a very different thing. Um, I mean, it does exist. Now anywhere else but the EU, I don't know. I went down to Patagonia and I just trusted my guide down in Patagonia to tell me where I could and where I couldn't fly it. I knew it seemed a little bit like the US. You couldn't fly it in the parks. You could fly it outside in the wildlife in the wilderness areas, but not the wildlife. So sorry I don't have more detail on that, but yeah, there are rules outside the US. But a
I've
lot of
got
time, go ahead.
I've got one last question. This one's from Kathy Allen Shin, who wants to know about county open space.
Um, I'm guessing county open space is going to be clear. You can look on your app and for the you're going to look on your app for the uh, what do you call it? Airspace limitations, if there are any. I mean, you could be next to an airport or a small airport or something like that, and the answer would be no. But if unless they have it posted usually somewhere that says no, it probably is okay.
Hey, I'll weigh in on this one real quick, just only because I know a couple things here. Thank you,
Okay.
Kathy, for asking the question. The one, like I know, like the Douglas County open space areas do allow them, but I know that Jefferson County open spaces don't. So I think it might be a county by county type of thing.
Good to know. But does Jefferson have it posted anywhere?
I think, interestingly, I found this is that they don't have it posted like right there unless you really look closely at the signs as you're walking in and so forth, but they have little pamphlets there that say no drones are available. That's what I found at the couple of the Jefferson County places that I've been to.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean you got to do your research, I guess, but in a lot, some of it is just common sense, a wildlife area, parks and state and different things. But again, and some of these areas, um, when you open your app, it'll say the airspace is open, but then it'll be yellow down below to say check local regulations for drone operation. So it'll give you a, hey, you need to check this before you just start flying. All right. And by the way, we could do at least an hour or more on all the different regulations that go. I mean, it is a little involved when you get into the part 107B of where you can fly, how you can fly, how far up you can fly, how far away you can fly, what's a drone pilot, what's all this. We could really go into detail and talk for more than an hour, hours on all the rules. This is just a basic introduction, and we really could go in a lot more detail, but this is basically just a little intro where we just kind of talk to getting started type of thing. All right, so getting started. Now, I'm just going to say people bring different drones to our workshops, and so far what I've seen, nobody has caught up with DJI yet, as far as just how easy they are to use, how safe they are to use, and just how what they do to keep themselves, the drone itself, safe. I've seen a few brought that, and they don't have quite the smooth operation either. So all I have is DJI, and this particular presentation is going to be very DJI heavy. They just work really well. If you're just thinking about just getting started with a drone, you don't want to invest too much, but you want something that's really going to work well, and get you some good pictures and be easy to use. This little DJI Mini 4 is kind of hard to beat. It has a great little camera on it. It flies really easy. It has all these obstacle avoidance sensors on it to keep itself safe. Comes with a separate controller, so you don't have to use your phone or anything like that. And it's under 250 grams, so if you really don't want to register it, it's 249 grams. You don't have to, and it's just a great one to get started with. I think it's only about 1,400 bucks. It may have gone up a little bit from the tariffs, but it's really and easy to use, and that's about the size of it right there. And you can just pack it into your camera bag. Really simple. It's about the size of a lens with a couple batteries, and away you go. This little guy is a great thing to get started, and people bring it on our drone classes all the time, and you can get some really good images with it, and it does almost everything the bigger drones do. So it's the obstacle avoidance, keeping itself safe. It does a really good job with that. Has a nice camera, 48 megapixel size camera, inch and a third sensor. It takes pretty darn good pictures. We'll go into a little bit of detail about that later. And full features. It does all the fun stuff. It'll follow you or follow something else. It does all the pre-made master shots where you see something circling around something or doing a boomerang shot or a slingshot shot. It does all that stuff that a lot of the bigger drones do in this tiny little package. It's a great way to get started if you're thinking about it. And like I say, this is a very practical, the advice I'm giving is very practical. It's all just my opinion. And I could be wrong, but this is just my opinion after playing with them for a while. I said about $1,300. I'm pretty sure that price has gone up quite a bit, but it might drop pretty quickly too, because they've just come up with the DJI 5 Pro that isn't available in the US yet, but I suspect it's going to be pretty quickly. And when it does, this will probably drop. But well, I'll tell you, this one's a great one to get started. So getting started. So now I've made the decision. I'm going to buy my drone. I'm going to try and do it by the rules. And now what? Now how? And here's where I was afraid, because I'm not the most dexterous person, I was sure when I got a drone, my very first flight, I would send it up in the air, fly it into a tree, end of my drone experience. I just, I'm not that great at video games, and I just thought, I'm not sure how this is going to work. But these drones actually have a lot of safety features built into them that make things very easy and keep you from making mistakes like that. So once you get one of these DJI drones, this is going to be one of the screens you're going to see, and you're going to see this little thing that says Academy. See it on the upper right-hand part of the screen? That, well, what that does is you tell it, hey, I'm a beginner, intermediate, this type of thing, and you start going through the academy, and it walks you through a series of videos that take you from first use all the way through all the different things. And if you walk through these videos and do what these videos to tell you to do one by one by one, by the time you're done with your little academy, you'll have a pretty good idea about how to use and operate your drone. And it walks you right through it. It's a really good thing. A lot of people sidestep this, but if you're wanting to get started, it's sort of like taking a beginner digital photography class. It gives you the basics and lets you get started. And so the academy is built right into the drone, so it can walk you through it and you learn it. And it's pretty fun to learn this stuff too. And even if you've been operating a drone for a while and you haven't gone through this academy, you can go in there and click intermediate and advanced, and I'll bet it's going to teach you some stuff that you didn't know. So it's right on your controller, walks you right through it, and it's very good instruction the way it's presented. All right, so now you've got your drone, you've gone through your academy, you have a basic idea about how to fly it and what to do. So now I'm gonna start taking landscape photos with my drone. What do I need to know? Well, of course, it shoots in RAW, so that's good, but you have to go in and change the settings in RAW. It does have different image sizes to choose from, but choose the 4:3 because that uses the full sensor and you can always crop. If you choose like the 16:9, it's just going to crop the 4:3 sensor. So you can do that yourself if you want. Choose the highest resolution, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to noise, but the detail can be impressive. Some people turn on the histogram in pro mode, and you absolutely can turn that on. If for whatever reason you would want to take pictures in manual focus mode with this thing, it does have a peaking function like just on your camera. And what a lot of people turn on is this overexposure warning, zebra, like that's on your camera. But I don't use it just because it's such a distraction. It does have grid lines, rule of thirds and that type of thing. If you can, it's going to ask you where you want to store your pictures. The internal storage on the drone, it stores those pictures much faster than writing it to the micro SD card that you can put into your drone. And that can be an issue. This new drone I have has a 100 megapixel camera, and it takes a while sometimes. I'll take like a series of 5 bracketed images with it, and I'm probably sitting there for a good 15 seconds while it's taking those images and writing them to the card. But if you save to internal storage, it writes so much faster, probably 5 times faster. And the only problem with internal storage is that usually internal storage is, much smaller than any micro SD card you can get. So it's kind of a trade-off there. But those are your basic settings when you want to get started for landscape. And so here's what they're going to look like. So here's your screen when you first get started. This is my backyard, and I'm about to launch my little drone. And so how do I actually choose those settings? And right there, you touch those 3 little dots right there. You go to camera, and here's where you choose those settings. So I didn't want to just list those settings for you. I wanted to show you in your settings exactly where you make those changes. And it's just that simple. You just go down the list that I just gave you, and that's where you make those changes and set up for landscape photography. All right. And there we go. You've got raw format, 4:3, 48 megapixel resolution, anti-flicker. There you go. Peaking level, I have that off. You can choose those different grids. White balance, you can manually set it, and SD card or internal storage. And that's as simple as it is. This is what the Zebra feature looks like. And I don't know that it's all that accurate, to be honest. You know, when we think of zebra, we're normally thinking, hey, this is going to be a blown out area. But it, I don't know. It's telling me that that orange part is blown out, and I'm not sure that it is. But that's why I don't use it. To me, it's a little distracting. That's what it looks like when you turn on that overexposure warning. So now you've got your basic settings. We want to go start taking pictures, but how do I keep my drone safe? All right. So on your controller, you're going to see three little settings right in the middle, C and S. See? Good. Green, green all the way. So basically that's cinema mode, and you use that when you want to get real smooth video. Normal, that's normal mode, and you use that when you're just flying around taking pictures. In these two modes, all of the camera's obstacle avoidance safety features are turned on. If you're just getting started, avoid the S mode. The S mode is the sport mode, and that's when the drone flies really as fast as it can from one place to another. 9 out of 10 of the stories you hear about drones getting lost, crashed, all this other kind of stuff, most of the time they were in S mode. S mode turns off all the obstacle avoidance features. So if you're just getting started with your drone, avoid S mode. Okay, that's a important note if you're just getting started. All right, how to keep my drone safe. So another really important thing about keeping your drone safe, and this is maybe one of the most important little tools, is this. Did you hear that? So what happens there is before you take off, you want to hear your controller say home point updated. And what happens if you look in the upper right hand corner, I don't know if you can see my mouse on there, but you see that it is in contact with 21 satellites. It knows exactly where the home point is, and now you can fly. Sometimes it doesn't say it for whatever reason, and it it'll and then you have to take off and hover about 3 feet and it'll say it. But the thing about the home point is, if anything goes wrong with this drone while it's flying, it automatically just returns to the home point. So let's say the battery is running low. You've been flying for a long time, the battery's running low. Well, how far away it is, it's constantly calculating, and it knows how much battery life it needs to get home. And so if it needs, you know, if it's going to say battery running low, return to home, and it'll start returning to home all on its own. Let's say you've flown so far away that you've lost controller. The controller and the drone aren't talking to each other anymore. Again, the screen turns black and white and the drone just starts returning to home. Um, it, I, again, a lot of the stories you're going to hear about drones crashing into water and all kinds of other things that can happen. People got excited about a spot they were in. They set up their drone, they took off, and away they go. And they forgot to update their home point. And that's where things can go wrong. So if you're just getting started with your drone, absolutely make sure it says home point updated before you take off and fly. But what if you make the mistake and you take off before the home point is updated? Luckily, there is a way to update the home point once the drone is in the air. And this is useful for all kinds of things. What if, you get in your car and you drive, I don't know what you'd be like, maybe the drone is following you, or maybe you're on a bicycle and you launch from one place and want to drive to another. You can update the home point to wherever the controller is. And you hit those little hamburgers right there, and you go to this page right here, say safety, and then update home point. You'll get this little map, and then you just hit the controller button, and now the home point gets updated to wherever the controller is. So, and it's easy to get excited sometimes. The light's good and this type of thing, and you instantly launch your drone. You get up there and you forgot to update your home point. This is a good thing to do if you do that and you can update your home point. It's also a good thing to do, like I say, if you move and you want your drone to now land where you are instead of where you launched from. All right. So capturing the images. Now it's time to start taking your pictures. And again, this is real practical stuff. This isn't too ethereal, you know, this is just what you need to know to start capturing your images. Now, it has an auto mode, sort of like your camera has an auto mode and you're getting started. Um, I trust the auto mode for a lot of stuff simply because this is a camera flying in the air with wind. And for some way, they have made this thing so stable and so smooth and so good at taking pictures. I'm usually only changing settings when there's a reason to change settings. But I do you can stay in auto mode and adjust the EV by 1/3 of a stop, half a stop, this type of stuff. And I will do that sometimes when I'm not liking what the exposure looks like. But you can switch to completely pro mode and you can adjust your camera settings just like you can on your camera. You can adjust, you know, your aperture, um, your shutter speed, white balance, all those things. Or you can use it a lot like your camera works, where you leave everything in auto mode except maybe one thing. And this is what I'll do sometimes. I'll leave everything in auto mode except the aperture when I'm, you know, very close to an object and I want to make sure I have depth of field, either a shallow depth of field or a real deep depth of field, and I will change that. So it's uh, it works very much like your camera, and it's pretty easy, and I'll show you how to change those settings. One thing to note though, the camera works similarly to your phone in the way it kind of evens out exposures. And so long as just one item is in auto mode, it will do that. It will take the picture and try and keep you from having anything that's too blown out or too blocked. But if all of the modes are in pro mode, then you're on your own. You've got to you're the one who has to make sure nothing's blown out, nothing's blocked. So just keep that in mind. So how do you do it? This is how you do it. So touch that little camera right there and boom, you're in pro mode. So here's how you make your changes in your settings. Your EV, all of those are right there. And then back to auto mode, but you can just change your EV and you can just plus, minus, and it's just that easy. And your drone's just up there hovering, waiting for you to give it some instruction. So it's just that easy when you need to do it. All right. So now you've got the basic idea of how to operate this camera, how to operate the drone. Now, how do you find the cool shots? And what I like to do is I like to start flat where I'm at, fly straight up in the air and do a 360-degree, it says 180, but that's wrong, 360-degree rotation and just look at the light, look where it's landing, and then just kind of make up my mind where I want to go. And we had one guy come to our Hanksville drone and photo workshop without a drone. And I'm like, okay, but you know, we're going to be doing a lot of drone stuff, but there is a lot of good photo stuff. And he was kind of not just didn't have a drone, he was kind of pretty anti-drone. Like he talked about shooting them out of the air with a shotgun and didn't like going on. But you came to a drone photography workshop. Okay. But I said, well, come over here and I want you to see something. And I showed him something similar to this. And let's see, we'll take off. And you fly straight up in the air. And as a landscape photographer, isn't this what it's all about? You want to see where the light is, where it's coming from, what it's landing on, what looks cool. You fly straight up in the air And now you see it in a way that you just can't from standing on planet Earth. And now you can see where the light's coming from, where it's landing, and it's just, as a landscape photographer, you feel like, this has taken you to another level that you just never had access to before. This was a real eye opener for me when I first did it. And so I showed our grumpy Gus that in Hanksville, where we had a beautiful sunrise, and I shot that up in the air, did that slow pano, and I showed it to him. He looks over at me and he goes, "Damn you." So maybe I converted him. I don't know if he ever bought a drone or not, but he sure seemed impressed with that. But that's the way I start finding my shots. Then once I'm up there, now I've got all kinds of choices as far as angles and altitudes. Now let's go through a few of them. So this is a favorite spot of mine. It's over in Hanksville. It's just the coolest mountain. Isn't this a cool mountain? God, I love this thing. And those are the colors. That's just the way it looks. It's just awesome. And so here it is. I just flying up in the air, looking straight on at it, which is just a great angle, right? But you're now you've got the easiest tripod in the world to move around up there. Well, what would it look like if I looked down on it a little bit? Well, that's pretty cool too, right? That's pretty neat. So, now you can put the Henry Mountains right on top of it, and you've got a whole nother angle to it, and it's a whole different picture. And I've adjusted my, 200-foot tripod in about 10 seconds to get a whole different perspective on this. And maybe you feel the lights changing, and you're like, okay, well, what would it look like over to the right? So now you're looking straight up at it. Now you're looking down on it, and now you're moving off to the side. And that looks pretty good too. So it's something to keep in mind as you're flying, these different angles, straight on, down, up, to the side, and keep those in mind, because it's sort of like, as a landscape photographer, when people tell you, hey, turn around, it's sort of like that. But it's so much easier to do. I don't know how many pictures I've taken sitting on the tailgate of my truck. I'm sitting on the tailgate of my truck, just, operating my drone, having a good time. In fact, this last one here's a selfie. If you zoom in, you'll see my truck and me sitting on it way down there somewhere. So it's these different angles and altitudes are just available for you. And it also can provide you with unique perspectives. Sometimes you're looking at something and, man, I wish I could see factory viewed through that little notch up there. And so you fly up and now you can see it through the little notch right there. Or maybe, you're looking at that cool wall that leads you right to Shiprock, but there's these big notches in the wall. You're like, what would Shiprock look like in between those two notches? You just fly your drone right over there and take a cool look, and there it is. And so I love the different perspectives that it can give you that just aren't available to you when you're on the ground. And of course, one of my favorites in the world is just looking straight down. Now, I went on a workshop with Daniel Corden, and he doesn't like straight down. To him, he calls it Google Maps. But I think straight down is cool. It just shows you so many different perspectives, and I do love looking down. And there's just some neat ways of seeing things looking straight down. And I wouldn't pass on it, because it's a way of seeing things that you just there's just no other way to see than with a drone, and just gives you some amazing perspectives. So those are the different, and you can obviously, your imagination is your limit when it comes to all the different angles and perspectives when you're up in the air. But if you have these in your mind, then you can say, well, hey, I want to check it out from this. And normally you have the time to do this. These batteries aren't running out in a short period of time, unless it's, windy. You can get 30, 40, even more on some of the larger drones. You can get, like, my new drone goes about an hour in the air, just flying up there. So you've got time to look around, you've got time to play with your settings, and you've got time to fly to different locations. So absolutely. And it does some of the stuff that you do with your camera. For example, exposure bracketing. It right there, you touch right on photo. It'll give and it'll let you choose AEB, automatic exposure bracketing, and how many images you want to bracket. It doesn't let you set the stop differences between the bracket. I think it automatically defaults to like 0.7, but it's usually enough, and it can be helpful sometimes. And you can stack them just exactly like you stack images. It's amazing how steady these things are in the air. Really amazing. With brackets 2/3 of a stop, 5 images. And this is what it looks like. So here's one I took in Indonesia. So here are the 5 bracketed images. And then there's what they look like blended. So pretty cool, right? I mean, it's a fun process there. It looks pretty good, and I really like it. Now, all of these have usually some type of zoom feature. Like the minis have a digital zoom, but the larger ones actually have separate lenses on the camera with optical zooms. This new one I got, this Mavic Pro 4, the zoom on it is amazing. I mean, really amazing. It's a 50 megapixel, it's a 168 millimeter zoom, and it's pretty cool. This one was actually taken with the Mavic 3, and it's kind of a cool shot with the zoom. I mean, it's kind of neat. And just it's something else to keep in mind. So it does have most of these have some type of zoom feature, and it can be fun. It can be handy. If you're using the mini, the zoom images usually aren't competition quality or that type of thing, but they're still fun to do. But if you're using some of the others, some of the Mavics, their zooms can be pretty good. It can be pretty good, and it's real easy. Now I want to talk about panoramas, which are a neat feature on drones. And this is incredible. So these drones are flying up in the air, and you say, I want to take a panorama. It takes the images and blends them together in the air and then sends the image back to you so you can see it. This is insane. And it does it so well. But there's some things you should know about the different types of panoramas so that you can get the shot you want to get. The 3 modes I use are the 180, the wide, and the vertical. I think there's at least one other one. But these are the ones I'm going to demonstrate right here. So here's as easy as it is. You scroll down to where it says pano, and then oh yeah, you can do the sphere pano. And then you can just choose what type of one you want. So this one here is the wide mode. And there's your vertical. And there's your wide angle, which is 21 images put together. And this is what these look like. Oops, I got too crazy. All right, so here's the 180, which is 21 images stitched. Now, the thing about this image that you need to know is that when it takes that picture, no matter what angle you have the camera, it then puts the camera straight on and takes the 21 images. And as you can see with that shot, it kind of cuts off some of the bottom of what you want in the shot. Then you've got the wide angle, which is cool, and it takes 9 images, and it'll if you have the camera pointed down, it'll recognize that and kind of take those images so that you see some of the bottom of the shot. And then the vertical is exactly what it sounds like. It's 1, 2, 3 in a row. So it's good to know what these look like and what they can do when you're in the air. But one thing I want to point out here, and we'll talk about it just for a second, is the 180 and the vertical, Lightroom and Photoshop, they stitch those just perfectly. You can just bring them into Lightroom, bring them into Photoshop, say, stitch panel, and they do. The wide, it has a tendency to really bend the horizon. So there's some things you need to know, but a lot of times wide is the shot you want. So I'll show you something you can do with wide. But there is some things you need to know about the panorama as you're taking it up there. The drone saves the raw files of the panorama into a separate folder. Then it creates a stitched image, but the image that it creates is always JPEG. So if you want the raw panorama, you've got to stitch it yourself. So it'll give you the JPEGs and to show you what the panorama looks like. But if you want to process it, you got to stitch them together and process it yourself. They're saved as DNG files in separate folders, and you can kind of see how they're saved. Let me see. You see, these are, when you download all these files, you want to make sure that you tell it to save the folders that are created. And I've made this mistake and it's a mess. If you just plug in your whatever you're using to download your images onto your computer or your hard drive, and you just say download them all, and it doesn't save the folders, it can create a mess. So definitely tell it to save the folders or whatever you need to do to save the folders that it creates. And so when you download all your images, you'll notice the only ones that are JPEGs are your pano images. And that little number at the end corresponds to the folder that has your panorama images. And so what I do is I just make a separate folder that says panorama. I move all those JPEGs over into that folder, and I move the folders with the raw files into that folder as well. So now I can see, okay, that's what the picture is going to look like, and there's my folder that has all the raw files. And I know if I want to process that, I got to stitch them myself. And so, like I say, stitching wide panels, Adobe Camera Raw, Lightroom, everything, they have no problem. Throw all 21 images in there, say create pano, does it perfectly. But stitching wide, and same with vertical, but stitching wide, this is what you get. And man, I have fussed and fussed, and you can fuss with it. You can go in there and try and fix the horizon in different ways and this type of stuff, but I like easy. I like things that work easy and are accurate. So one thing I found is this new thing called Panovolo, and it's a $30 program, and it seems to be out there just for this purpose. It absolutely, and it stitches them just perfect. And it's a super easy to use Pano program. You just, drag the images in there. It creates it. It's just that simple. For 30 bucks, I'll take it. Another thing out there is called PT GUI, which is a very advanced panorama program. It can absolutely do it. It can do it just like this. It's just more of a hassle with the interface with it. I don't know if you use PT GUI. It's a very powerful program. It can do all kinds of great things. But it'll straighten the horizon really good and give you a really nice pano. Both of these will for the wide. And this kind of shows you what the PT GUI image looks like. So, all right, you've done your panel, you've done your pictures. Now you want to create a nice competition quality image. Well, this is a camera flying with a lens right up against the sensor in the air, hovering in the air. So denoise is, to me, is definitely a part of this. And I'll show you two denoise programs to kind of, two that I use, DxO and Topaz. And also, I don't have it demonstrated here, and I was going to add that and I just forgot. But the Lightroom denoise also does a good job, but I'll show you these. So here's the Mavic 3 picture close up. And you can see if you're looking at it, there's some little problems there, little details that we kind of lose, and some haloing and stuff like that. So we send the Mavic through DxO Pure Raw. It's okay, but you see got some serious haloing. I like Pure Raw for a lot of things, but I don't necessarily like it for my drone images. But then I do Topaz, and it's the Topaz Photo AI. Seems to do a better job. Plus, it gives me more control over the outcome. So this is with the Mavic 3, which has a larger sensor, a little better camera. The Mini 4 Pro, smaller sensor, smaller lens, smaller drone. It needs a little more help with the softness and the detail. So here's a close-up taken down in Patagonia with my little Mini 4. And you can see we're losing some detail there. You know, what is that thing? But then we run it through Pure Raw, and hey, that's a little house there. And you get a little bit of detail. But if you look at the mountains, it looks a little, I don't know, cartoony. I don't know, liquidy. I don't know what else you might call it. It's not quite up to speed. It looks better with Topaz. So for me, and I like both of these programs. I have both these programs. I use both these programs. But just for me, and again, this is just kind of a practical, from my point of view, Topaz works a little better to denoise these drone shots than DxO. Now, the Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw denoise also do a pretty good job, and I like them as well. And sorry, I don't have that demonstration here for you. All right, so you've got your images, you got them home, you got, now what about the fun stuff? The micro SD cards, and there's stuff you need to know. So if you're gonna use your drone, you're probably gonna need a micro SD card, and you need to know the right one to buy, because first of all, the video, you need something that's fast. It's going to work really, really well. And if you get some kind of slow SD card up there, you could take a picture and you could be sitting there for a long time as it tries to write these pictures. And you really don't want it doing that. So you want the right card. So a micro SD card that works, you need it to be U3 write speeds, V3 speed class, and class 10 minimum, these things. This one here is a good price. It's available on Amazon. It's an easy one. You can get up to 1 terabyte on it, and it meets all the speeds, and it writes pretty darn fast. It's the one I use, and it's very popular for drones. A lot of people use this for drones. So it's a simple one. Landing pad. To me, this thing's important. Now you'll see out there in the Wild West, a lot of people catching drones and landing them, and catching drones and launching them from your hands. Go for it if you're into it. I think it's dangerous. And I know so many stories of people. These blades are not some like light duty fan blade that if you touch it, they'll just stop. They will cut you. And I've cut my fingers because I was on some slope, and I just barely tapped it and cut the tip of my fingers. I know people have cut their chins and their arms, and it can be dangerous, but you'll see people doing it all the time. The bigger the drone, the more dangerous that it is. I don't do it, and I don't let people do it on my workshops. It's dangerous. It's a liability, but that's up to you. This little landing pad's cool for a couple reasons. One, it gives your drone a nice flat surface, so if it comes down, there's some blade of grass that isn't going to get cut by the propellers. You're not going to get your dirt on the front of your lens or on your lenses and that type of thing. The other thing too is it tells everybody this is where my drone is going to return to and land. So people won't just walk up and, suddenly they're right at your return to home point. So it's nice to have this designated launching landing pad. I don't know, they're maybe 15, 20 bucks on Amazon, and they fold up really small. They're, the springs, very easy to use. I really like them. Very easy. This thing here, I only recently found, and I don't know how I've lived without it this long. It's this cool little screen protector that you just put on so you don't have to take off your controllers, and it just screens your controller from the shade. Again, it's not very expensive, but man, is it a useful little accessory. Great to have. Now, I'll tell you something. Every one of these DJI drones, and probably the other ones too, come with a very cool case, but it packs everything very neatly, but it's not very easy to use, to grab your stuff and start just using it. It's usually all packed very tightly, like you're wanting to go backpacking with it. So even though they give you these great backpacks and cases, I don't use them. I usually get a hard case like this just so that everything's right there and accessible. It keeps your drone really safe and makes it really easy to use. Just grab your stuff out of there and go. And a lot of times with the drone, you'll see just, oh, I've got this beautiful light right now. I want to hurry up and grab my drone, launch it, get in the air and get the shot. And you don't want to be fumbling with your bag to, get the right thing out, get this out. And these just show you everything right there. And they're waterproof, so they're really tough little cases. I go ahead and get the hard case every time. They're about $100. Now here's a pain in the butt on that little Mini 4 that I told you about. It doesn't come with its own power supply. It just comes with a little USB cord. And you're supposed to somehow know what kind of power supply to plug that thing into. If you plug it into a low watt power supply, it could take all night and the next day just to charge your 2 batteries. And so you need a good power supply. This one's really popular, the Ugreen 60 or 30 watt. And so if you get your little Mini 4 drone and you're charging your batteries and it's taken forever to charge them, the light's blinking really slow, it's because you don't have a good power supply. So I like this little Ugreen, but there anyone that's, like a 30 watt or better, maybe even a 15 watt or better, and to get it done. But if you get the drone, there's nothing telling you that. So it's something you have to kind of learn on your own, unless you're watching a presentation from me. All right, I may have done that too fast. Did I talk too fast? I talked pretty fast. And that's us. Right now, we've got 2 sessions at Hanksville going on here in the next couple weeks. We've got our first session is full up, but the second session, 19th through 22nd, I need 2 more people on. If you guys want to sign up for it, by all means, AmericanPhotoTreks.com. It's $15.95, and that includes your lodging, and we do all the off-road driving. So I'll be more than happy to have you guys on it. It's a blast. Oh my God, it's so much fun. And some of the coolest images you will ever capture come out of this thing. It is just great. And if you like competition, these images seem to do really, really well in competition. So it's a lot of fun with them. So I don't know, did I talk too fast, too slow? Did I make it? Am I right on time? What's going on?
No, it's perfect. Thanks,
All
David.
right.